The more Trump just sits back on the issue of Palestine and Israel, the more the Democrats look bad. What is this? Biden is banning TikTok. The genocide is happening. Is Biden, not Trump. You can't just blame everything on Trump, bro. Didn't Trump say that what Israel is doing in Gaza isn't good? Oh, dude. Yeah, remember when Trump said what Israel's doing in Gaza isn't good?
Well, You're getting a terrible deal.
Yeah, I guess I'm inclined to believe and forget everything he has done in delivering October 7 to Israel. To be fair, that was definitely a lot of his administration's policies. But beyond that, I lay the blame of this current iteration of the genocide directly in the hands of the Biden administration. That much is true. I think that is correct. But if you are to think that Donald Trump, because he said what's going on in Israel isn't good, means that like he's actually in any way, shape, or form pro-Palestinian, you are one of the most delusional people I've ever encountered in my entire life.
May Allah awaken the people.
It is pretty funny to think that the most most openly Islamophobic, because every American president is Islamophobic. Even Muslim presidents like Barack Hussein Obama were very famously Islamophobic. The idea that Donald Trump is not Islamophobic, or rather would be in any way, shape, or form better for Palestinians than Biden is ridiculous. The only realistic outcome is that if this were to happen under Donald Trump's second term, the only difference would be that liberals would be up in arms way more openly because they love negatively polarizing against Donald Trump in the most reactionary fashion. So then, yeah, there would be a shit ton more protests, but Trump would be unflinching in his unconditional support for Israel. He probably would have maybe even gone as far as sending in U.S. troops.
Yes, he would. He's literally on video. I have this in my election survival guide video. He very explicitly, originally, Trump was critical that Biden's not doing enough, that Biden's not being aggressively Islamophobic and doing enough about Palestine. Like, Trump's not going to be better in any way. Like, he's more pragmatic in a way, in my opinion, and not just extremely pro-Israel. Sometimes I'd be scared by how y'all get like far anti-Biden that y'all be pro-Trump. That shit don't be crazy to y'all. That's not nuts.
Yes, he is. He also said the U.S. troops would have been 1,000,000 times better. Yeah, 1,000,000 times better at killing brown children. What the f*** do you mean? Like, what do you think they did in Iraq and Afghanistan? You think they weren't fucking slaughtering children? They were just using weapons directly instead of bombing them. Well, they did bomb them too. That's ridiculous, dude. Get the fuck out of here. No, how about no fucking soldiers in the Gaza Strip? That's insane. Unless they're, the Al-Qassam Brigade, in which case they're soldiers. You know what I mean? They're doing defense. Anyway, not like this is ridiculous. You don't know anything about the history of Donald Trump.
All right, stop arguing with it. Can you X this out?
It's so stupid. It's like Donald Trump and his administration, his foreign policy on Israel was literally... One, recognizing illegally annexed Syrian land, Golan Heights, as permanent Israeli territory against international consensus and international law, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing the Israeli occupation as the just owners of Jerusalem, greatly accelerating the Palestinian plight, greatly, leaning into Israeli interests to a degree that like actually ended up causing October 7. Donald Trump also assassinated Qasem Soleimani, an Iranian general, a very important figure in Iranian politics, and also a merciless ISIS killer himself. Donald Trump then tried to advocate for the Abraham Accords, which, he gave to his dumbass son-in-law, Jared Kushner. The Abraham Accords, which is what you are seeing right now as far as American foreign policy in the region, completely sidestepping Palestinians, no recognition of statehood for Palestinians whatsoever, and just simply openly normalizing relations with Gulf states and all the menace states in the surrounding region that wanted American weapons contract that they could just openly trade with Israel without any scrutiny whatsoever. Obviously, they already were trading with Israel, and they certainly were already aligned with Israel. However, there would be no more reason for political mystery in that relationship, making this perfectly out in broad daylight, all of which was awful foreign policy. Donald Trump also threw away the Iran denuclearization agreement, which wasn't even just the American agreement with Iran, but it was actually a 10-year project, or even longer than 10 years technically, but a 10-year project with multiple other European states that were keeping Iran's nuclear program in check Iran was following through on the denuclearization agreement even after Donald Trump ripped it apart, and even after Donald Trump added additional sanctions on Iran. It's just so silly that people just say shit. Like they're just like, oh no, Trump would be better. Like, okay, dude, sure. Here is Biden's approval of handling the Israel-Hamas war. 81% of 18 to 34-year-olds disapprove. Raw data is even more damning. 35 to 49% has 29% approval. 50 to 64 has 30% approval. 65% has 37% approval. It's terrible. He is so cooked. And I've been saying this for months. He's cooked because he's not hitting one direction. He's trying to do the both sides angle. And that's how you lose even the older population. That's like, dude, take a stance. By both sidesing Israel's ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign, he's even losing the dudes who are like, no, Israel should be doing more ethnic cleansing. 18 to 34-year-olds, the HasanAbi head contingency here is at an 81% disapproval. How is he doing both sides? Am I missing something? Here's how he's doing both sides in the most laughable and worst possible way. He is obviously full throttle, unconditionally in support of Israel, sending more weapons to Israel, constantly offering political cover to Israel at the UN Security Council, vetoing anything that Israel wants the United States to veto. But simultaneously, he's looking extra weak by saying Benjamin Netanyahu has gone too far. He keeps leaking to the media that behind closed doors, he's angry at Benjamin Netanyahu. That only appeals to like 8 people in the divorcelli orbiter community. And those guys are already incredibly motivated to defend Israel anyway. So you are only fucking galvanizing basically like 8 total people. There is no real contingency for those who are like, I am a diehard Democrat and I love Biden trying to do his very best while simultaneously giving full-throated support to Israel. That's it. For the rest of the population, they are obviously very upset with the way that Biden is mishandling this. There's no constituency, there's no contingency, there's nothing for it. For the rest of the population, especially younger populations, they look to this and go, what the fuck are you doing? We've seen all of the dead children. This needs to be put an end to. This is fucking ridiculous. For the older population, some on the far right and some in the middle, they think, well, take a stance, man. We want you to go full-throated on in support of Israel, which he is doing. But like, don't criticize Israel at all. It makes you look weak. The irony, of course, is that the only one who benefits from this is going to be his challenger, who can just sit on the sidelines, despite the fact that he played a significant role in October 7. It feels like this is the Democrat Party's version of abortion. Biden's abortion is Israel. Obviously, the Republican Party, anytime they do stuff in the direction of like restricting abortion further, criminalizing abortion further, they end up galvanizing and negatively polarizing the population against them because the population is very upset at the abortion restrictions to begin with. That's a minefield politically to navigate through. Trump is having a very hard time navigating through that. What's hilarious, on the other hand, is that the Democrats are trying to give a gimme to Donald Trump because most people cannot connect Trump's actions because most people are not very intelligent when they do political analysis. So they can't connect Donald Trump's actions to October 7. So they see Biden also facilitating Israel's current genocide, which, you know, Brandon has a lot of blood on his hands for sure. And therefore, Trump, the less he talks about Palestine, the more the Democrats look bad. The more Trump just sits back on the issue of Palestine and Israel, the more people can imagine what his positions are. And most people, because they're not thinking about this critically and intelligently, can imagine what his positions are, and they imagine it in a very favorable fashion. When they're imagining what Trump's position is on the Palestinian issue, it suits whatever their personal ideological standing is. Those who are reactionarily in support of Israel think Trump is going to be extra hard on Palestinians, and they are correct. Those who want Palestinians to survive can now sit there and imagine that maybe Trump would be better than Biden on the issue of Palestinians. They're wrong, but it doesn't matter. You can't stop the broader population from thinking this way. That's not how politics works. Look no further than the way that Republicans fuck up the economy and have Democrats come in to try and desperately fix it and then actually end up putting the economy on a, I guess, from a capitalist sense, a better trajectory, only to have the Republican come back and take advantage of that and then fuck it up with more tax cuts and more deregulation, only to have the Democrats come back and try to fix it one more time. Fix it from a capitalist framework, I'm saying. So that is the reason why people over the course of these past 30, 40 years have developed this attitude that Republicans are good for the economy and the Democrats are bad for the economy. It's because people do not have the critical thinking skills to recognize that it's actually the Republican Party taking advantage of the Democratic Party's initiatives and taking advantage of the momentum, because the economy doesn't fix itself overnight. What do you mean? Republicans also serve capitalism from a capitalist framework? No, you can do a little too much capitalism that will end up harming the economy broadly, or create too much economic uncertainty, too much volatility, too much income inequality, too much wealth inequality. It also goes back to the ratchet effect as well.